Hey everybody, here we are again for our second night. Welcome. Thank you so much. I've been sitting here kind of prepping for tonight and seeing that several of you have already sort of come into the chat, and I could see some names starting to come into the group. I get excited about that because it's always so much more fun to do a live in front of an actual audience, and I really appreciate everybody being out there. So this is fantastic. I've got some folks from all over. You guys have been seeing some of the comments, so I've got my Canadian folks. Thank you for being here. We've got Georgia, we've got California. Where else have we got? I saw something. Was it? Yeah, Maryland, Maryland. So we've got a little bit of everybody from everywhere. So I love it. I think it's fantastic. I guess if there was any silver lining to COVID, it was being able to take my painting community online for the first time. And so you start to just spread and find so many more people that way. And I guess it's just one of those, just one of those happy accidents or happy things, that happens and makes things seem like it's worthwhile in the end, right? So anyway, thank you so much for being here. Hey Shirley, how are you? Monica, Pam, Evelyn, I'm seeing people's names now. This is awesome. Okay. All right. So let's kind of jump into it just a little bit. I'll do just a little quick recap from last night. And, we've got these videos are showing up on YouTube. We're doing them on YouTube this time because that has not been my preference in the past, but I'd kind of been cornered into that because Facebook is not being cooperative right now. I may have found a very solid workaround and could actually start streaming into the Facebook group again. And you guys can just let me know what you think about it. I do think that there's a lot more interaction when we do it that way. I'm totally prepared to just continue on and do the entire series here on YouTube as was originally laid out. But if anybody's interested or want to provide any feedback, and maybe we do it inside the Facebook group, just inside the Facebook group without having to migrate over to YouTube and then migrate back over to Facebook to make comments, it might be a little easier. So you guys can drop some comments in the Facebook group or here, however you want to do it, and we'll just kind of figure out what we might want to do on that. So all right, so come on in. I'm going to give everybody just another minute to come on in. I'm going to get a little sip of water. We've been having wonderful weather here in the park. I think yesterday when I shared with you when we first got to the park, everything seemed wonderful, and then we were just slammed with a snowstorm. And it wasn't like a terrible, scary kind of snowstorm, but it still did accumulate, and some roads were closed and that kind of thing. So we've had a beautiful sunny day today with a high of like 65 degrees, and now they're telling us that we might have another snow episode tomorrow. So I don't know. I think that's, Colorado, Wyoming, Montana. I think that's just that's just how they like to do it. So we're just going to go with it, and but we're safe. We've got a great place to be. We've got propane, and we've got all the things that we need. So whatever comes, we'll be ready for it. So we'll be good. So let's jump into our session tonight. So this is day 2. Yesterday we talked about getting into our mindsets a little bit more. And if we're talking about confidence and wanting to paint confidently, operate with a sincere, really honest level of confidence, it comes from the way we think about things. It really is based in, rooted in all those mindsets. So we did talk a lot about mindset yesterday, and hopefully you were able to kind of sit down with that between then and now, and maybe take a look at yourself, just sort of a little self-assessment, really, about the areas that you may be struggling with in terms of negativity or self-deprecation or unworthiness, thoughts of unworthiness, or whatever the case may be, any of those types of things. I definitely want you to continue working on those things, because as you work on those things, you're working on yourself, and it makes all the difference. It makes all the difference. So we talked about all of this internal work yesterday, because that underpins our lives, but also our creative lives as well. But today I want to shift gears a little bit, and let's just talk about what can we do on the outside? What are some actions that we can take? Because we talked about that a good bit yesterday, that, we can think it, but then we've also kind of got to like go and do it. Those things kind of have to happen together, so hopefully you've got your workbook and we're going to get into this today. So just like in real life gardening, okay, if any of you have done it, whether you've planted vegetables or flowers or whatever, you know that you can't just take a seed and just sort of spill it out on the ground and walk away and hope for the best. You can't go to the plant store and pick up a tomato plant and bring it home and just set it down on the driveway and believe that tomatoes are going to happen. There's some work that's got to be done. Okay, we've got to get our hands dirty. We've got to get down into the dirt. We've got to dig up the dirt. We've got to tend that soil. We've got to make a place for that seed or that early plant to go so that it has a chance to thrive. And that's exactly what we've got to do when we're talking about our creative process as well. We've got to do some work, because if we don't, if we're just wishing that we would paint, if we're just wishing that we had time to paint or had a space to paint, it's not really going to happen, because we're just doing that thought part and we're not taking action to make something happen. All right, so getting a place ready for things to grow is exactly what's got to happen in our creative life as well. So we're going to talk about that. That's our whole core tonight. So for an artist, this means preparing a physical place to do creative work. And I will promise you this: if you will not do the work if you don't make time for it. You will not do the work if you don't have a place to do it. Okay? And it's just true. We can talk about how we'll maybe do this, but it doesn't really come together if we don't really make a place for it. So just like we plow up the ground for seed, we've got to do some changing in our environment to make sure that we've got a place for creative work to happen. If we don't do that, it's not going to happen. We'll think it is, but it's not really going to happen. All right, so let's look at some options. Okay, we're just going to be super realistic about this. Okay, I don't know about you, but I'm going to assume that most of us here, are not able to just go out and rent a big studio space, or have a separate building somewhere, or whatever the case may be. Those are wonderful options, and if you can do that, fantastic. I think it's great. But for the most part, most of us have just got kind of just a real common standard way of going about our daily lives, and we just our options are not going to include that. But we definitely have got things available to us. So you might have, can write these down. Some options can be like a garage space. Maybe you've got a spare bedroom. Maybe you've got a bonus room somewhere in your house. Okay, even a corner of a room where you can shove a little desk in the corner and with a chair and a lamp, and that's your place. That can be a studio space. And then last but not least is the kitchen table. Okay, the kitchen table, along with like a portable studio in a box, is kind of what I like to think of it. But just like one of those plastic tubs or something like that you can put all your things in, because often, if you're working at the kitchen table, it's likely that you need to clear that away often, because meal prep or whatever, and then, you're kind of having to get things back out again. But it's okay. That's still, all of those can qualify as a studio space. Any place where you can have a designated area to be your creative space, you have got to make that a priority. That's like one of the very first things you need to make sure that you are doing and taking care of, because if you don't have a space for it, it's not going to happen. You're not going to make the work. You'll talk about it, but you won't actually get in there and get the work done. So when we plant a garden, we have to do it according to a planting schedule, or all of that work is for nothing. If you have planted before, that you don't plant tomatoes in December, or that type of thing. Everything's kind of got to have its own time and space for it to really work well together. Okay, so after you think about having after you prepare a physical place, you must do creative work by appointment. It's something that it's just kind of this mindset that I would encourage you to adopt. A lot of times if we're not making an appointment for it, just like we don't make a space to do the work, if we don't make an appointment or set up a time for the creative work, that still presents another challenge, and often we won't get it done. Okay, so we got to have a space for it, and we got to have a time for it. This establishes mental space for you to take action. If you can just kind of get your mind wrapped around the idea that we can do creative work by appointment. If you just like going to the dentist, if you've got a dentist appointment, you don't think anything about it. You watch the clock and you make sure that you're ready to go, and you get there and you do that appointment. Okay, and we can do that with our creative work too. You will not do the work if you've not made time to do it, if you've not set aside a time to do it. I want you to think about this idea here. Rely on a schedule, not inspiration. Okay, if you have heard a lot of people talk about, I just don't feel like painting right now. I need to be inspired, or that type of thing. I'm not going to tell you that you absolutely should never approach it that way, but chances are, if that is the way that you approach your painting, oftentimes you're just not going to get a lot done. You're not going to be very productive in what you're doing. Okay, so it's really important to just set aside a time for your creative work. Just make an appointment, just like anything else on your calendar. So here's some options on setting aside some time. How to just kind of physically handle that. So I've got some digital options and also some analog options. So digital, if you're into this and you like it this way, Google Calendar is fabulous. Okay, I use Google Calendar a lot just to kind of block out major chunks of my month or my year. But I will still I'm sort of a pencil paper person, and so I'll maybe make some notes about what I want to do and what I'm trying to achieve and that type of thing. But I will have very specific dates on the calendar that those are the days that I paint, and within those days, even time blocks, if I need to, on what sections of those days I'm going to be painting. So you can even make a spreadsheet with a daily schedule. I actually have one. I didn't make it because I'm not good with spreadsheets, but my husband, he's great with that kind of thing. And if you've got somebody in your life that can do that, it's wonderful. And basically what I tell him is like, I would really like to be able to make sure that on Mondays I am able to get this part done, and then on Tuesdays and Wednesdays I have these other things that I'd like to do. And then he just magically, puts the spreadsheet together, and it's like this little chart I can follow. And I'm good at following charts, but I didn't know how to make the chart. But he did that for me. And so you can definitely you'll start to see value in that, because it's now, you don't have to, now it's time to paint. So go do the painting. I've got a quote down there on the bottom of the page. And if you're not familiar with Chuck Close, he's an American artist. I would encourage you to go look him up. He does beautiful, beautiful paintings. And one of his quotes is, "Inspiration is for amateurs." Okay, he says, "The rest of us show up and get to work." And there's more to that quote. You can read that when you want to. But it's kind of true. It's really true. If you just sort of wait until you feel like painting, you're not going to do it. And if we're wanting to really get better at painting, we need to make sure that we're doing it more often. Okay, just kind of like exercise or whatever the case may be. We need to make sure we're really taking care of that time in our lives. So some analog options, okay? Just pencil and paper. Buy an inexpensive planner or a notebook. Maybe you can put a whiteboard on the wall, or a blackboard, something just where you can just write down what you think your week is going to look like, that type of thing. Now, we'll get into this a good bit over the course of the whole week, because on day 4, we're really going to start working on that 30-day roadmap. And so it is going to be like your 30-day schedule for you to start out with, and you can modify this as you go, but you're going to have something at the end of our session, of our week-long session, where you know exactly what you're going to be doing for the next 30 days. And in terms of just your artistic process, and it's going to feel absolutely fantastic. Okay, so I want you to treat your creative time just like any other important time. Okay, because that is a part of you, and it needs to be treated with the respect it deserves. Okay, so put it on the calendar just like it's an appointment, because it really is. It's an appointment with you, it's an appointment with the gift within you. Okay, to make sure that you're taking care of that and utilizing it and expanding it, and all the different things, you're nurturing that and allowing it to grow. Okay, because if you really didn't do that, you can see how over time that gift is not going to grow very much. Okay, and another thing that's really important, when we set an appointment with our creativity, it legitimizes, okay, that need. It legitimizes the significance of that time of our gift, and that we do need to make sure we're paying attention to that and making space for that in our lives. It's super, super important. And if that idea kind of just sort of is like, wow, I don't think I've ever thought about it that way. That's some of that mindset work that we talked about yesterday of maybe there are places where you're not assigning true value to the gift within you. And now it's time to start really changing that, so that you're making sure that you're getting in there and taking care of yourself and taking care of that. All right. Now, I will say this. I realize that everybody has a unique season in life. Some of you may have small children. Some of you may be a full-time caretaker. Some of you may have teenagers, and you're a human taxi, taking everybody everywhere. I realize that we all have different seasons, okay, of busyness and whatnot, but just like you can still make a hair appointment, you can make a dental appointment, you can make a doctor's appointment, all these different things. You can definitely make an appointment for your creative time. It's super, super important that you do that, because even if it's just 15 minutes, that's 15 minutes that that you could have lost. Okay, so it really matters, and we'll talk more about how to really squeeze these things into our calendar, okay, so that it makes a little bit more sense. Michelle says, oh yeah, this is good. Michelle says, I like this. Rely on a schedule, not inspiration. And it's true. It makes such a big difference, because it's there just telling you what to do. You're not having to figure out, well, should I not? I don't know. Maybe if I don't know. Don't get caught up in all of that wishy-washy. It's on the schedule. You can do it. It's time to do it. And then when you've scheduled a time to work on your creative self, then that time it's right there. You don't have to, there's no guilt. There's no, gosh, I should probably be folding towels right now. Oh gosh, I should probably be writing up some kind of a report right now. If you've scheduled it for its own specific time, then you can sit in that time with peace and confidence, knowing that that's all you have to do is focus on that right now. It's beautiful. It's wonderful, wonderful, and I encourage you to do it. All right, so let's take a look at some of the ideas that we've got, just in terms of studio space possibilities that you might have. So let's say you've got a dedicated studio space. Fantastic. That is wonderful. That's like you've got all of this room. And so now I want you to get in there and I want you to clean and organize that space. Gather your materials. Don't use as, and gather the materials that you don't use as much. And I kind of want you to put those to the side, because part of what we're going to talk about is, maybe how you can isolate some of those things, and it might be that you maybe don't even need those things. Okay, we'll kind of figure that out together over the week. I want you to review and evaluate your lighting, your work surface, your storage options, and kind of have everything with an eye toward simplicity. Okay, simplicity and functionality. Okay. I know for some of us, I might be guilty of this. I enjoy going into an art store, and I want one of each. I want all of it, And sometimes if we've got enough money in our pocket, we might come home with some art supplies that maybe we really didn't need. It just seemed like a really cool thing to get a hold of, but maybe we didn't really need it. I have found that I have gone from this. I've gone the gamut. I started out at the kitchen table, worked my way to a bedroom space, worked my way to ultimately having a dedicated room that was built as a studio with like a sink and everything. Then, we've changed our lives, the direction of our lives to where we're living full time on the road. And guess what? I'm back at the kitchen table again. Oh my gosh. So I'm back at the kitchen table. I do have a tiny little cabinet that is built into the bus that is only, it's 2 feet wide, it's 13 inches deep and 2 feet tall. And all of my art supplies fit in that one little cabinet. And I'm the most productive, that I feel like I'm the most productive at painting that I've ever been in my life. And so it goes to show that we probably don't need as many things as we think we do. It's really about getting the work done. And so, if when we're new in our processes, yeah, we need to experiment with some different things and we find out what we like and that type of thing. But as we are able to, it's good to kind of narrow those things down and really look for simplicity. Even when we're working on a composition, you've probably heard this before in some art class or from some art teacher before, but working with fewer colors, working very simplistically, it allows you to create something that's a lot more beautiful and engaging. All right, let's see, I've got a couple of questions up here. Somebody says, let me put this up here. Christy says, thank you. I go to bed earlier at night so that I can get early and have my time. Absolutely. From about 10 a.m., my days are, I kind of cut you off there, but my days are pretty busy, unpredictable, even being retired. Absolutely. We are all busy, and thank you for mentioning being retired. I think a lot of people think that when you're retired, I don't know, they think you're like lying around eating bonbons or something. I don't know. It's like, no, you're like, you're doing the things, you got stuff to do. Maybe you even still have a part-time job somewhere. Maybe you're volunteering somewhere. Maybe you've got a lot of projects and different things that you want to do. I mean, there's stuff, we've all got stuff, okay? But if we organize our time, we can really make sure that we make a place for this perfectly protected little bubble where we can get our creative work done. Let's see, Pam is saying oh, that's so sweet. Pam says, my granddaughter helped me clean my studio and organize. She's a great organizer, and now I have to find out how she categorized things. Okay, yeah, so you've got a little bit of a work to do there, Pam, but it's true. And listen, don't be afraid to ask for help in these things. A lot of creative people are not particularly organized. Okay, our minds are kind of going just pinging off the walls sometimes. And just like my husband, he's really good at spreadsheets and coming up with systems that help me to stay on track. If you've got somebody like that in your life, it's really important to get them involved if they're willing to do that. Super great way to do that. Let's say you've got a part of a room or a garage with a work surface. Okay, more organization is required with this. If you've got a dedicated room, obviously you can have things sitting in a fixed place and they just live there and you don't have to worry about it. If you've got a smaller space, you're probably going to have to do a little bit more work. Maybe you might have to clean up each time. It kind of depends on the space. But get things in your life that can help you, like a filing cabinet or plastic tubs that you can label and that kind of a thing. Typically your work can be left out on a work surface between paintings if you've got a garage space or something like that. But definitely review your lighting options, because a spare bedroom will often have like just kind of woeful light, and so you want to make sure that you're able to see what you're doing and all that kind of good stuff. let's say that you work at the kitchen table. Okay, like I said, I'm back at the kitchen table, and there's good things and bad things about it. There's pros and cons for whichever of these options that you have, but the main thing is that you're showing up for yourself, for the creative gift within, and making time for it. It's precious, it's sacred. Okay, we want to make sure we're taking time for this. But if you're at the kitchen table, congratulations, because I think working at the kitchen table is probably requires a lot more motivation than going to a designated room or space in the house, because often with the kitchen table set up, you've got to clear it all away and you got to get it all out and clear it all away. And it's kind of, I live with this too, in our bus situation. But you've got a lot of resolve if you're already working that way. So that's a good thing. So organization is super critical, and simplifying, having fewer things. And I have really found that just having tubs or baskets or boxes or whatever works for you. I have all of my dry media in a little tray, and I have all of my watercolor implements in a little tray, or whatever the case may be. I've actually got a little video that I'm going to share in the group after we wrap up tonight, and to show you what my little bus storage cabinet looks like. And it's crazy. Like I said, I'm the most productive I think I've ever been in my life, and I've gone from a big 15 by 12 foot studio to just a little spot at the kitchen table inside of an RV. Okay, so it can happen. You can do it. So I've got some, a list there of just some storage options. These can be simple and not super expensive, that type of thing, but have separate storage solutions for completed work, in progress work, and then also for throwaway paintings. That's right, keep the paintings that you intend to throw away. They're useful for a lot of things. Okay, you can just practice on the back of them. You can tear them up into pieces and use them in a mixed media thing if you wanted to. And they're always just good reminders for how much better you have gotten over time as you really spend time dedicated to making sure you've got a space and a time to get your work done. Show up for yourself. It's super important. I've got some, in the PDF file that you have, everybody has that, to have the one that you use to print out. These are active links, so you can go and look at these things. There's some clear sleeves, some plastic envelopes, some plastic tubs, some different things like that. And then I've also got some links there for lighting options. I want to tell you something about lighting options. Art stores will want to sell you just hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of art lighting, and it's kind of a bunch of baloney. Okay, so as an instructor, and I've taught for many years, from 7-year-olds all the way up to 87-year-olds and everything in between, and had real life classroom situations. You do not need super expensive lighting. Okay, so I've put a ring light and a microphone stand there, because the microphone stand allows you to suspend your light over your work area. When you click on these links, you will see these items sort of in action, just to kind of see what they look like. And then if you have a situation where you've got fluorescent lighting, I prefer, people will tell you this, to go get the 5,000 Kelvin bulbs. That's the daylight bulb. And my honest opinion of this, okay, and I'm not an electrical engineer, but I am an artist with a good eye for color. And the 5,000 bulbs, they are cool. They produce a very cool light and a very harsh light. I like to use a bulb that's more in the 4,000 range, and they're also like half the price. And so anything that's in a 4,000 range, and interestingly, in the box or on the label when you're at Home Depot or Lowe's, it will tell you that it's a cool white bulb. But I tell you, it is very neutral. It's not a hot light, it's not warm, it's not cool, it's just neutral. It most represents natural light to me much more so than a 5,000 Kelvin bulb. So just that was a freebie, just throwing that out there. So make sure that you've got some different scenarios, kind of look at decide where you are in the spectrum of your space, of your type of space, okay? And if you don't have one at all, look at these options and figure out, what could I do? What would be the best thing for me, okay? Because I know that there's going to be something, one of these solutions of some type is going to work out for you. Maybe you've got a basement space or an attic space or something that's not even being used. Well, guess what? It might be the new studio space, okay? So you can kind of decide that. Let's talk about your time for just a minute. Right here on the last page, I've got a little assignment for you. And I want you to think about, I'm going to show you a trick on how to find some lost time in your day. This is kind of easy for us to do nowadays. If you've got one of these things, and I know we all do, we probably spend time on it more than we even would be willing to admit. And I want to encourage you to do one of two things. If you've got an iPhone, I happen to have an iPhone, I want you to go into the settings, and you can Google how to do this if you need to, but I want you to activate a little app on there it's native to the phone if you got an iPhone. It's called Screen Time. And then just activate it, just turn it on, and then just use your phone like you normally would. And then maybe after about 3 days, I want you to go in and open up the Screen Time, and it will show you how many hours you spent on Facebook or TikTok or scrolling videos on YouTube, or whatever the thing is. It'll break it down for you. It will just embarrass you right on the spot. It will just point you out and tell you exactly where you've been, what you've been doing, and you will think, my word, okay, I had no idea that I was spending that much time. Well, guess what? That's time that we're going to convert to our creative time, okay? If you don't have an iPhone, you've got an Android, Digital Wellbeing is the comparative app that will do the same thing. It will spy on you, and it will track you, and it will tell you how much time you're spending on things that maybe should be spent on working on your creative process, right? Okay. All right, so let's, before we move on to the next section here, somebody is saying, oh, yes, simplify. Yeah, there's a lot of good comments. People are like, yes, I like simplify. Oh, Christy, I love this. You schedule in your bonbons. Oh, yes, do that. I love it. Absolutely. Schedule those in. Less is more, especially for my ADHD self. Yes, less is more. It's always the best. Somebody says, I'm at the kitchen table right now. Absolutely. Pam says, I have a small tote and brushes, smaller palettes and paper by my recliner. It works too. Oh, Pam, she's got a studio within a studio. So you've got like a space, and then you've got your recliner studio. Oh my gosh. Okay, that's awesome. And hey, and you know what? This is so true. Even if you had a screened in porch, guess what? In the summertime when it's mild, that might be your creative space. And then in the wintertime, you move it to the laundry room. I don't know, just whatever might work for you. Michelle says, I love the kitchen table because I can step away when I get an idea. It's easy to pick up the brush and try my idea. My husband gets tired of the mess, though, so I pick it up often. I understand. Michelle. I get that completely. And that's one of the reasons that those totes, and the one that I've shared the link for, it's like a large sort of flat like one too. And any of those, you've seen them. They're for the kind that'll slide up under the bed, so they're flat. They're so nice for just storing paintings and even things that are in progress, and you can just plop it all in there, slide it under the sofa or the bed or whatever, and you've cleaned up you've tidied up your kitchen space, if you need to, just real quick. Yes, Pam, Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, it's time for Wheel. I love it. Okay, I think that's so funny. All right, so this is what I want you to do. I want you to start thinking about what your space is like. Okay, many of you may have like a very sophisticated space, and you've got shelving, and you've got tables and flat files and all that kind of stuff. Awesome, it's fantastic. You may still just be at the kitchen table, and that's awesome too, or anything in between. Whatever it is, I want you to look at what is really realistic and what it is that you have to work with. And we're going to start, I'm going to give you some guidelines, when we get together. It'll really be let's see, it's going to be on day 4. We'll do some more training on some other things tomorrow, but on day 4 we're going to dig into what I really want you doing with these spaces. Okay, because you want to completely fashion this whole thing. This is like an overhaul. I mean, you're changing the way you think, you're changing the way you act, you're changing the way you organize your creative space, you're changing the way you set aside time for your creative space. This is a lot of things to do all at one time. But when we sit down with our 30-day roadmap, we're gonna map it out, and you're gonna know exactly what you need to do for the next 30 days. It's gonna be awesome. So start thinking about your spaces and just kind of take an inventory. Figure out what it is that you've got. What is it that you've got to work with? Okay, because we're gonna revisit this. The second thing I want you to do is sit down with that. Okay, with the phone thing. Do the activate the screen time and the digital well-being, because that's there so that we can reclaim time that we're allowing to just be stolen. Okay, I know we do this. I mean, I'm guilty too. I will sit down and I'll just start scrolling cat videos, and I don't, it's just, and I don't even have a cat. It's like, I don't even know how it happens. We get sucked into these things. And so I'm old enough, and I feel like most of you, probably all of you, are old enough to remember the days before the internet. Okay, and so do you remember when you would just wake up and you would just think about your day? You would just start thinking about, what am I going to do? Who am I today? What am I going to do today? I'm inviting us all to return to that place before just the brain cell consumption of all this screen time, all this digital media. Um, I know we're using digital media right now to communicate with one another, but when we're done, hopefully we can kind of shut it down, and then we'll go do something that really is an investment into our lives. Okay, so this does work as a communication tool if we'll use it for that, and not abuse it or let it abuse us, that kind of a thing. So start thinking about how much time you could save doing some other things, and spend some time thinking about what you want your workspace to look like. Think about what would you like, what would you like it to be, and then your 30-day roadmap objective. I want you to think about this. Now that you know that you've got to spend some time clearing out a space, clearing out your calendar, all these kinds of things. Decide how many painting sessions you think you want a week. Okay? Give yourself permission to actually ask yourself that question. You might not have ever asked yourself that question. For many of us, it's like, well, I hope I get to paint sometime or other. Well, we've got my husband's got some time off. We're going to try to, it won't be real busy. Maybe I can paint then. Or, whatever the case may be. I know how it goes. We just kind of relegate that for the bottom of the pile. It just it's an afterthought, it's a leftover. And what I'm inviting you to do is to bring your creative practice, your creative purpose, the gift within you. It needs to come to the forefront. Okay, absolutely 100% to the forefront. We're going to keep talking about this all week, and you're going to get examples. We're going to go deep. All right. So I want you to think about how many painting sessions you would like to have in a week, and how long you think they should be. Okay, and whatever you say is fine. If it's 10 minutes, if it's an hour, if it's 2 hours, whatever you say it is, then that's what you need. That's what's going to work for you. So it's a very flexible decision in the early stages of this. I don't want you to overthink it, because even though we're going to create this 30-day roadmap, you're going to kind of work through this for 30 days, and then guess what? You get to modify. You get to change it up. You can do whatever you want to with it because it's yours. Okay, it's 100% yours. But once you start realizing that I can own my creative time, it's mine, and I can protect it, and I can make time and space for it. Talk about feeling the confidence starting to rise to the surface. It's big. It's huge. Okay, so I want you to write down all the changes or additions that you're planning to make in your current painting space. All of the assignments are written there on that page 8 there in your workbook. So sit down and work with this. I can probably tell you that this homework assignment will probably be a little bit more fun than the last one, but I hope you can see how these two assignments, they have to weave together. You've got to start thinking differently about yourself, about your creative process, and about the value that you assign to things, specifically to your creativity and your creative process, your painting process, so that it comes to the forefront and you're spending the time there that you need to honor that, to honor yourself. Okay, all right, let me look and see what I've got here. If anybody's got questions or comments or thoughts, here's another thought. Oh, let's see, this is good. Shirley says, I use a spare bedroom for painting and quilting. Excellent. Lint gets in my paint and paint gets on my fabric. What a mess. I totally understand that. And you know something, Shirley? Here's something that's a possible option. If you're familiar with IKEA, they make a track system for a pull curtain. Okay, when you remember when you've been at the doctor's office and you have to go behind the curtain to change your clothes and put on the paper napkin thing. Well, they make something like that, and you can, divide a room. It's there to divide a room, so it's really kind of cheap, and so you can just mount it to the ceiling and pull a curtain. You could do something like that, and the curtain can be sheer or whatever, so that you feel like you see space between the two, but they do kind of keep each other a little bit cleaner. Might be an option, something like that. Let's see. Oh, yes, I love the thought of creating my space. Yes, this is your space, okay? If you have been making art, if you've been making art where, you have to just finally go and just get your sketchbook out and just go sit and work on top of the washing machine, I mean, come on. I mean, I know, I'll give you a quick little story. Many of you may be familiar with Stephen King, and whether or not he's a favorite author or not, this is commendable. I have read his book on writing, which is actually a really good book. And he describes in his early years, married, young child. There was a young child, or maybe there was two children. I can't remember. He was teaching school at the time, but he was a writer. Even at that time, he was committed to his craft, and he would come home from teaching all day, working with children all day. He would go to the laundry room where there was just enough room for a folding chair, and he had a piece of lumber that he would put over his lap and a manual typewriter that he would sit on his lap, and while the washing machine and the dryer were going, he would sit and he would write. And I'm like, okay, that is commitment. That is absolute, utter commitment. But talking about owning your gift, owning your craft, owning that which is within you, and making it a priority, assigning proper value to that. It's everything. But I would encourage you that you're probably going to be able to find a place better than just working on top of the washing machine. It's really good. This is a good one. Kathy says include a laptop to the wasting time area. Yeah, same thing. Depending on your computer, there are time tracking apps for that as well. So yeah, it's absolutely. So imagine all the time that, all these chunks of time that we spend. If you could just sort of sweep that all together, oh my gosh, we've probably all got a couple of hours a day that we craft. Oh my gosh, think of the possibilities. Okay, it's amazing. Michelle says, if I do this for 10 minutes a day, I imagine my creative time will grow as I value it more. 100%. Absolutely. Because, see, it just like anything else, we talked about neuroplasticity yesterday. As you practice thinking and doing a thing, it becomes the thing, it becomes the pattern in your life. And so imagine if you start thinking and doing your creativity, your artwork, your painting. I mean, it's going to get to the point, I experienced this in my own life where, painting it's totally at the forefront of my daily practice. It takes, food prep and all these different kinds of things, even laundry, and I don't have little children at home anymore. Okay, so I don't have that challenge anymore. But I've allowed those things to, I prioritize a lot more time for my art than I do for those things, and they still get done. But the script has flipped, and so now instead of laundry and meals being like just the focus of my life, it's totally turned around now, and it has come over time by making those small steps. It really does. Somebody says, yes. Okay, Michelle, you hit the button right there. In fact, we'll be talking about that this week. I wonder if it would help to think of this as my work, or if that would kill my creativity. Okay, all right. First of all, this is a loaded question, but yes and yes. Okay, so yes, when you think about, I'm an artist. If you, when you realize, when you're ready to own this idea in yourself, I'm an artist, I'm a painter, I'm a creative person, whatever title you want to assign it. I am this creative person, and this is what I do. This is my job. This is my work. Just like the quote from Chuck Close earlier. He says the rest of us show up and we get to work. Okay, there's work to be done. There's a job to be done. There is that thing that is to be done. Now, can you push that so far that you kind of burn yourself out? Absolutely. So there's going to be balance in it, just like with everything. Okay. So even though you've got dedicated times, ultimately that you're going to have where these are your painting times, yes, grandkids are going to come visit. You know what? Probably won't painting time won't look the same when grandkids are visiting, or I don't know, we're going on vacation, or whatever the case may be. Okay, there's always going to be room and flexibility for this to fit your life, not to govern your life, but to fit your life. Okay, let's see. Elizabeth says, what I'm hearing are others in these examples are respecting the person's interest enough to respect allowing them time that's asked for. Yes, absolutely. And Elizabeth, correct me if I'm wrong. You may be. Let me read this again just to make sure I got the whole context here. Um, yes, yeah, it is a matter of you. It is a matter of you respecting yourself and respecting that which you need to be doing and want to do, and honoring the gift that is within you. And I realize that, another little part of this might be, within your household, depending on, I realize that there are family dynamics, okay, that are real. And there may be instances where you're not having the way that you want to honor your gift might not be seen the same by someone else or others in your household. So, I would encourage in those situations that lots of conversation starts to happen, and one of the best ways of handling that is that, when, if you're wanting to start to own some of your creative time and ultimately all of your creative time, then those other people that are in your household that might not be artistic at all, but there's something that they want to work on, and maybe you can start a spark in your family that everybody gets their own time to do the things that they want to do, and that you work together as a family and collaborate on these things, and you help each other schedule it all out. I don't know, I'm just kind of throwing that out there as an idea. But I do realize that that can be an issue in a household at different times. So communication is key. Making sure that you start really understanding and seeing the value of what you're capable of doing and what you want to ultimately be able to do. You want to continue honing this skill. You want to continue honing your craft. You want to continue building on this, and it's going to require all of these things that we've been talking about: the mindset changes, the external changes, changes in your time, your schedule, your space, all these things. All of these things are what are lying underneath every time you sit down to paint. So what I'm hoping is that, I mentioned this yesterday, this is not your typical painting class, but if you've never really thought about it, every time you sit down to paint, everything that we have talked about for 2 nights now is what's underneath the surface of every time you sit down to paint. So I want you to see the value of how much all of these things need to be dealt with. They need to be settled. They need to be sorted. They need to be situated. Okay? So lots of exciting work that we are on the cusp of right here. And I want you to dig into this week. Tomorrow, we're going to get into, on day 3, amending and tending. And so what this is about, now that you've organized your space and your time, I want you to think about the idea of devoting energy to your materials. Okay, so we're going to kind of get everything sorted out. We're going to talk about these things and talk about the relationship that you need to start having with your materials, and how that is actually super connected to the way that you develop and grow as an artist. Okay, all right, let me look and see. We've gone almost an hour here, so I don't want to take up too much time. Let's see. I think I'm not seeing any more questions on here. I hope that this has been helpful and encouraging for you, and just given you a lot of things to think about that maybe you haven't thought about before. Okay. So I think we'll wrap it up for tonight. I will leave you with just one little commentary about the way that we're doing lives. Okay, so we have been doing these on YouTube. I have discovered a way that I can go live like this for our sessions just inside our Facebook group, so that we don't have to migrate back and forth. I kind of touched on it earlier, but just wanted to recap on that. If you have thoughts or comments about that, you can let me know here, or certainly over in the Facebook group. Okay, so I think that's what I have for you tonight, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm excited. I want you to go to sleep, dream about your spaces, think about what you want to do in those spaces, and we're going to dig a little bit deeper tomorrow. Tomorrow is a painting day, so have some supplies ready. Very simple. We're not going to do anything extravagant tomorrow. I'm going to show you some really super nifty painting exercises that help you develop a relationship with your individual pigments. And we're also going to do a monochromatic painting, and we'll get into a little bit more of what the purpose of that is and how it's going to help you. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining. If you do watch this on replay, you can still make comments, questions or comments at the bottom of the video, and certainly post anything in Facebook as well. And I will make a decision on YouTube versus Facebook tonight, and you will all know about it tomorrow. So I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much, and good night, everybody. Bye.